Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hart School Sport and Recreation Management Program for part of our Spring 2021 Virtual Choices presentation. We're really glad to have you join us tonight. We're going to go ahead and give another 30 seconds to a minute in case we have some folks who are late joining our presentation. But we're glad to have you with us, and we're going to go ahead and get started in just a minute. All right, so it looks like we have some folks who have joined the presentation. We're really glad to have you with us. As I mentioned before, you are here for the Sport and Recreation Management presentation on behalf of the Hart School of Hospitality, Sport and Recreation Management. Really glad to have you with us tonight. My name is Jen Nelson. I am the Hart School's Career Development and Employer Engagement Coordinator. And with us tonight, we have Bregan Shanecki, one of our students. We have Sarah Hodges, one of our academic advisors, and we have Dr. Josh Pate, one of our faculty members from the Hart School. And I'm going to go ahead and ask them to briefly introduce themselves, and then they'll each take certain portions of the presentation, and we'll be able to answer your questions and hopefully just introduce you to the major and the Hart School this evening. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Bregan. Bregan, if you'd like to introduce yourself, please.
Thank you, Jen. So my name is Bregan Shanecki. I'm a senior sport and rec major. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm the president of a current student org that we have within the major. We'll get to talking about those a little later. I've also been a part of many experiential opportunities, including the internships and practicums and stuff that we'll talk about later. So I've kind of had my way around with experiential opportunities within the Hart School.
I'll go next. My name is Josh Pate, and I'm a faculty member in the Hart School, specifically in sport and recreation management. And I've been here, this is my 9th year at JMU. And so I've been involved in some of these experiential learning opportunities before and led them with students, but also been active with research with our students and engaged with several other things in and outside of the classroom. So I'll kind of sprinkle my voice in throughout the presentation.
And I'm Sarah Hodges, and I'm one of 2 academic advisors here in the Hart School. Jen and myself and our other advisor, Hannah Dillenbeck, staff the Hart School Center for Academic and Professional Success. So we're here to provide academic and professional support for all of our Hart School students.
Thank you so much, everyone. We are so grateful to have, or I'm very grateful to have all of these fantastic members of our community with us to teach you a little bit more about the Hart School. And we're going to go ahead and get started. I will let you know if you have questions throughout the presentation. Please feel free to ask. You can submit your questions in the Q&A feature, and we will sometimes answer them via chat, and sometimes we'll answer them live in the presentation. It kind of will just depend on where we are within the presentation. But please ask questions. We're here to make sure you get everything that you need from us. All right, so I just want to briefly talk about the Hart School. So we are JMU's first and only named school. Back in 2016, G.J. Hart and his wife Heather Hart made a really generous $3.5 million donation to endow the Hart School. We of course focus on hospitality management and sport and recreation management, and a lot of folks sometimes wonder why those majors combine together, and there's so much crossover. There's crossover in working with people, and there's crossover at the different organizations that hire our students, and it's a great relationship being able to combine those areas. But we do have about 1,000 students, and that's within sport and recreation management, hospitality management, and we do have a master's degree, sport and leadership management. Sport and recreation leadership. So we do have those 3 program areas within the Hart School. We have 2 main facilities, Godwin Hall, and then also we have facilities located in Hotel Madison. 3 classrooms, as well as 3 professors' offices over in Hotel Madison. Everything else is centered over in Godwin Hall. We are located, if you are familiar with campus, right next to the football stadium. right next to the bookstore and the football stadium. It's prime location on campus, right in the middle of everything. And we do have about 20 faculty and staff members as a part of the Hart School. A little bit more about GJ and Heather. GJ, at the time that they made their very generous donation to the university to endow the Hart School, he was the the CEO of California Pizza Kitchen. He is now currently the CEO of Torchy's Tacos, which is a fast-growing, fast casual restaurant chain that is mainly out west, but is starting to open on the East Coast, which I am very excited about because I love Mexican food. And prior to his time at California Pizza Kitchen, GJ was the CEO of Texas Roadhouse. So very well known in the food and beverage industry, and we're very lucky to have his support and Heather's support. Heather is an entrepreneur in her own right, has many business ventures. The two of them are very active with our Hart School students, involved in decisions that we're making. Their passion is making sure that our students have the experiences they need to be successful. So very student focused. And that is really a hallmark of our program at the Hart School. And you will hear more about that as we proceed in the presentation. So who are we at the Hart School? These are our mission, vision, and values. We really focus on the student experience at the Hart School. We want to make sure that our students are career ready when they graduate. So we want to make sure that we are really centering on experiential learning and making sure that our students are excelling inside the classroom and then also outside the classroom. But we are training leaders and managers of the next generation. So we're very cognizant of that. And everything that we do is really centered around this mission, vision, and value system. So how do we train leaders and managers of the future? So we really are focusing on these key areas throughout the student's educational experience, and we're going to talk about these during the presentation today. So we do have a strong generalist curriculum. We have a strong business component, and we'll talk about the business minor that's a part of our curriculum. Experiential learning is throughout really everything that we do. And we'll talk about what experiential learning is. Networking and travel, networking with professionals who are in the industry, actively making students aware of current events and current issues in their chosen area. Travel, making sure that they're experiencing the events and the sports industry that they'll be working in one day. Making sure that our students are leaders in their field. And then career readiness programming is something that I work with, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then of course, a very dedicated faculty. And I don't say that lightly. We have an incredibly dedicated faculty. I'm very proud to be a part of our Hart School faculty because I think that is a hallmark, and it's something that really makes a difference for our students. So we're really going to start talking about the curriculum, and I'm going to ask our academic advisor, Sarah, to describe academics at the Hart School.
Sure thing. So we are a generalist program, which means that we don't have specific tracks within the major. All of our students take all of the same SRM courses, and you'll start out with foundations courses that we take in partnership with the hospitality management program. And these foundations classes really lean into looking at the foundations of the mega industries as well as leadership skills. There will be lots of guest speakers to introduce you to the various career fields that you can have within the mega industry. Discussions of, as I said, leadership and also ethics that are going to be pertinent regardless of the field that you end up in. And then as you move on past the introductory classes, you'll start to focus in on key areas that are going to be important regardless of what kind of management position you end up in. So things like sales and marketing, human resources, facilities, events management, things that are really going to touch on all areas of the sports and recreation field. We have some planning guides. So this is an example of the fact sheets for the majors that talks about the different career paths that you can go into, as well as this is our Canvas group. And Jen, is this the advising Canvas group that you've linked to here? Excellent. Just confirming. So we maintain a Canvas, which is our learning management system group for our students. And so at any point, people can log into this Canvas system and have a look at these modules that can help assist you with planning out your classes at any point. We have sample schedules and checklists and things like that to make sure that you're staying on track for that 4-year graduation target. We have a business minor that is required of all of our students, and this is something that really sets our program apart. Our College of Business is nationally ranked, so we're very proud to be able to partner with them and offer our students a general business minor through our College of Business. It covers 6 areas that you can see on your screen here, and we find that employers have really responded very positively to this when we speak with recruiters and people who have hired our graduates, either as students in internships or as alums for jobs. They're really impressed that they don't have to go over the basics of accounting or management or finance with these now employees, that they've already come to them with that information, and that really helps to set them apart from other sports and recreation graduates.
I'm going to ask Dr. Pate if he wouldn't mind discussing some of the areas that our students really focus on and some of the areas that they are hired into after they graduate.
Sure. Thanks, Jen. As was mentioned, our curriculum is very much focused on functional areas within sport and recreation management. And what that means is when you're in class, you gain knowledge, and the courses are focused on areas that can really transcend across different areas within this degree and this industry. So, for example, just because you may be interested in college sport doesn't mean that you have to take a college sport class. Our curriculum really prepares you to go into that area because you are well versed in the management aspect of it, in the marketing aspect of it, in sales, in some fundraising introduction as well. So what does this major do for the graduate? I would say that our graduates end up going into areas all across sport. And the best way to say that is when you turn on a sports event that you're watching, or if you're attending, our graduates are working behind the scenes to produce that event in some capacity. So we have graduates who are working in college athletics. We have graduates who are working in professional sports, both at the professional level and minor league levels. Across all the major sports here in the United States, we have a graduate working at the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee. And we have graduates who are also working at the Parks and Recreation level, in addition to the campus recreation. So think about intramural sport on campuses across the country. So, and then the Parks and Recreation, what I mean by that is your municipal, city, and county Parks and Recreation that's offering more programming for the youth level and as well as adult recreation. So in addition to that, one of the things that Jen pointed out that our major does overlap a bit into the hospitality, and the fact that some of our graduates actually go into the area where they are working in these executive level suites, or they're working in sort of a hospitality related role for a team or organization or franchise. And so that's where it does overlap. We see clubs and resorts listed on here. Many clubs and resorts are attending our career fair each semester, and they're specifically looking to hire sport and recreation equipped graduates because they are seeking somebody who can provide that programming at their site. So some of these visuals that you see on the screen are of our students who are going on site visits or actively engaged in partnerships that we've developed with places like the arena in Washington, D.C., the Washington football team, as well as Richmond International Raceway.
Thanks so much, Josh. So we do have a learning community where if you're interested in living and learning together, that's certainly an aspect that I think really adds to the whole overall educational experience. That's something as a sport and recreation major you can experience. And I'm also going to ask Dr. Pate just to talk about the learning community and some of the hallmarks of that program.
Sure. The learning community is sort of a trend that's growing across campuses in the United States, and it's not very common in a sport and recreation program across the country. So we are very proud of that, and because it's unique. It's sort of we're on the front end of that growth, I would argue. And so one of the new dormitories on campus is near East Campus, close to UREC, a campus recreation facility. That's where the learning community is housed. And so essentially we welcome in freshmen into the program, and they come in as a cohort, and they take certain courses together. They live in the same hallway in those living spaces, and they perform different activities together throughout the
And that means connecting students at the undergraduate level with conferences, networking opportunities, working events, and getting that experience on their resumes as early as possible. Site visits, and we saw a picture of a site visit earlier in the presentation. So I do plan 2 career and internship fairs per year, one each semester. Next week, next Wednesday is our next career fair for the semester. I provide career resume reviews, cover letter reviews, interview prep, all kinds of things. If students have questions about practicums and internships, I can answer those questions and sort of have students talk through their process and any questions that they might have about that within the Hart School. And so this next slide really just shows our our fall and spring. It shows our February 2020 career internship fair, which I am so grateful that we were able to successfully hold pre-pandemic. It was a great it was a great day. We had about 63 employers join us from both sport and recreation and from hospitality. You see some of our employers wearing purple stickers, and those are proud to be a JMU alum stickers. I think it's a really great moment for Sarah and Josh and I to see our young alums coming back and recruiting JMU students. I found out earlier today that one of our students who graduated last year has a great job, and he's going to be recruiting students next week for our students as a part of the career fair. So it's a really a full circle moment, I think, for us to be able to see our graduates performing that task. But we really take pride in the fact that this is a great career fair for every year, freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors. It doesn't matter where you are in your academic career. We really encourage our students to attend the career fair. It's as important as a freshman to experience and to gain experience being professional and having professional conversations as it is juniors and seniors. It's a little bit less stressful at the freshman year because maybe the stakes aren't quite as high. You're not looking for maybe an internship or a job. Maybe you're looking for a summer opportunity. But I would argue that summer opportunity is going to play a role in you getting that great dream internship or that dream job at the time that you graduate. So we really encourage students to start young and to make sure that they're creating those opportunities for themselves. And I'm going to ask Bregan just to talk about her experience with the career fair because she's probably been to a few of them in her time in the Hart School.
I feel like I've been to all of them at some point in some way. But yeah, so from a student perspective, one of the best things about being at the career fair is there's no pressure to just kind of walk up and you have to see everybody and you have to see every single person that comes in. It's just really great whenever you can walk up and you see maybe an organization that you really, really like and you want to learn more about. Or at the very opposite, you see an organization that you've never even heard of before, but they have something kind of a banner, or, in our virtual case, they have like a little brochure that they put out, and you learn a little bit more about what exactly the organization is about. And I think that's one of the best things about being in the career fair, is that you can walk around. It's very conversational. Every single person that wants to, like, is there, that wants to be there. They're not just there to check off a box or anything like that. They are there because they genuinely think that JMU students, Hart School students, sport and recreation management students are the best people to start recruiting. And so they come here. They're really great. I've had 2 different times where I've gone to the the career fair, and somebody has reached out to me personally and said, when you graduate, call me up, let me know, see where you are in life, and we can see if we can get something going for you. It's just been a really great opportunity from a student perspective to kind of get in front of professionals. It's just one of those ways where, like you were saying, Jen, with the resume and the cover letter and all that stuff, being professional, it's one of those first few steps that we have as a student to really get out there and start getting our voices heard, and our face, in front of all these different organizations.
Absolutely. And it's a great event every year. We had our first virtual event in October, and I heard from faculty, mostly from employers and from students, that it was a great event. I think students were surprised that it was as easy as it was to navigate, and it was a good experience. So we have a good number. I think we're at almost 50 employers for this career fair, which I think during a pandemic is pretty fantastic. I'm really happy with that number. And we've got great employers that support us. So conference attendance is a big deal. It's a big part of what we do at the Hart School. We also provide funding for students because we do believe in its importance in their development as a professional, not only from a networking standpoint, but as a young professional standpoint. We want them to experience being a professional, wearing suits, conducting themselves in professional demeanor and in professional manner, and then seeing the living and the life of someone who is working in the sport and recreation field, and seeing all of the current events play out in the programming is incredibly important. So pictured here, you see the College Athletics Leadership Symposium, as well as the Virginia Recreation Sports Association. And as I said, many of our student organizations will they do fundraising. They will attend conferences across the country, and then the Hart School will assist with that funding as well. Breegan, have you attended any conferences as a part of your Hart School experience?
I was going to attend one in the spring, in last spring, and then of course, unfortunately, COVID hit, so I didn't end up getting to go to one in person or anything. But I've been to virtual summits and stuff like that have been free just because of COVID, but otherwise would have been paid for by the Hart School.
Yeah, I'm actually really glad you mentioned that, because even though there have been a lot of disappointments with conferences and things like that being canceled, we have had a lot of virtual experiences for our students at the conference level, and most of them, I feel like almost all of them, have been very low cost or free. So even though it's been disappointing to not actually have that travel component, I feel like the information that our students have access to is 100% there. Dr. Pate, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, one thing that I would add is that it's so beneficial for our students to go to these events, virtually or in person, to see others present on, current events or hot topics within the industry. But I would also argue that it is vital for them to develop these connections while they're at that conference. Even the virtual conferences are providing sort of social opportunities here, sprinkled in between the conference presentations. And so that's one component that I would stress. Is it's a real it brings to life this idea that we stress about networking and developing a network of contacts. I would also add that some of our faculty have worked on research with our students, and we've taken and been able to take students or present virtually, present their research that they've worked on. Right, Breegan? We're on our way to doing that. So not only is it sort of the hands-on experience and the practical experience gained from attending conferences, but also from a research side as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm jealous of some of the things our students get to do, that's for sure. So, we talked about experiential education. We do some pretty fantastic things within the Hart School. And I'm going to ask Dr. Pate to talk about this, about the NASCAR Collegiate Sales Program, as well as the New England Sports Tour. The New England Sports Tour, I think that specific tour has only happened once, but it's really more indicative of a trip that happens on a yearly basis.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'll start with that. And it was a trip that our student organization had planned. So they carried out this multi-day, multi-site trip where they went into these sport organizations, such as ESPN. They visited sport team complexes and just got to hear from industry leaders about their experience. And they shared their advice for some of our elite students who applied for and were accepted to go on those trips. We've also taken students to other parts of the country as well. But as far as the hands-on, get your feet, get your hands dirty work that Jen spoke of, I think one of the most innovative and cool opportunities we have in our program is our relationship with NASCAR. And specifically, it started with Richmond International Raceway through the sales and marketing class, where our students were making calls and selling season ticket packages to fans who were going to attend races at Richmond International Raceway. And that certainly laid the groundwork for JMU being selected as the first partner with NASCAR in what they've called NASCAR University. And so this is we're at the initial stages of that right now, but it's going to allow us to be front and center with NASCAR's collegiate attention toward college programs, and sort of give us that head start above our peers, which I'll pat Professor Alyssa Bosley on the back for really working hard on that program. But then I would also point to some of the other things that we've done real quickly. We've taken students to work events around the Super Bowl. Bregan was part of a student group that we led in 2019 to work events related to the NCAA men's Final Four.
Don't talk about that yet. That's another slide.
Oh, hush up, man. Yeah. So, but I would stress that this is where students get your job. When you graduate, this is how you get your job, because you've got these types of activities on your resume.
Yeah, and I'm going to piggyback on that. As someone who works with students who are putting together their resumes, the fact that seniors in our program graduate having worked in a sales program, and they have sold tickets to a professional sports a sports event is a big deal. I think students are petrified at the idea of this program initially. A lot of entry-level positions in professional sports are at the sales level. And so it's terrifying for them. They know they want to work in professional sports and they think, I don't think I can sell. It sounds awful. It sounds hard. I think they find very quickly that it's just listening. It's having a conversation and it's just listening. And some people are good at it and they have no idea they were going to be good at it and they enjoy it. And those are the students who are able to confidently apply for these sales jobs at the entry level and excel and get those jobs and actually have had experience doing it, which is very, very rare. And so however Alyssa got this idea 3 or 4 years ago to start the relationship with Richmond Raceway, it's absolutely astounding, the experience that our students are getting. And I'm grateful for it on a almost daily basis when I'm working with our seniors. So let's talk a little bit about internships, work experience, because this is a big part of what we do as well. So we do require our students to do 2 academic classes that are putting them in a position where they are working in the industry. One of them is our practicum class, which is essentially a 90-hour experience, about 10 hours a week for 9 weeks or 9 hours a week for 10 weeks, really however the student chooses to do things. And this is for academic credit. So, essentially they are either working or volunteering for a sports organization. It could be with JMU athletics. It could be with a sports nonprofit in their hometown. It could be with a professional team. It could be with a AAA baseball team in your local community. There are many, many, many ways to check off that practicum experience box. But the reason that we do it is because a good practicum is going to get a student their internship. And their internship is going to lead to that dream job after they graduate. If we didn't require it, then sometimes it just wouldn't happen, right? And so we're kind of forcing that experience because we know that ultimately it's to the benefit of the student. So the 400-hour internship is exactly that. It's a 400-hour, it's a full-time experience. So the student procures that 40-hour full-time work experience, and they're working for 10 weeks over the summer. Generally the summer, sometimes it could be fall or spring, depending on when the student is graduating. Generally that's a summer experience. And it's generally a culminating experience of, all of their years of academic experience, their practicum, their networking, their student organization experience. And I'm going to ask Bregan to talk briefly about her experience with internships and practicums.
Sure. So I completed my 90-hour practicum. Oh my gosh, this is so long ago. My second semester sophomore year. I did it during the year. I had a great recommendation for somebody who thought athletic marketing would be great for me. So I did my 90-hour practicum with athletics marketing. I was in charge of a particular project dealing with music. Any music that you heard during the football games or basketball games, I was in charge of that, but for lacrosse. And so what was really cool about that was I was able to have my own project. It was something that I could do and I was responsible for. That, along with all the other up, taking down, kind of all this other, all the data that for my 90-hour practicum. And then based on the credits that I had just coming into school, I was actually fortunate to do my 400-hour internship. There is absolutely nothing wrong with it. I just wanted a little bit more on my resume. I wanted a little bit of variety. So one of the benefits about that is your 90-hour practicum doesn't have to be your 400-hour internship, which is great. You could do something related to sports for your 90-hour practicum and something related to recreation for your internship. It was great. I was able to kind of cross over a little bit, and now I found myself doing a 400-hour internship with Sport Properties, which is the corporate sponsorship people for JMU, the multimedia rights people, and I fell in love with it. I did my 400-hour internship spring of my junior year, and I have been with it's Learfield Sports. I've been with Learfield since then. They've brought me on as a volunteer. I've volunteered, I've interned, I've been a paid student, everything in between with the company. And so I finished that. It was great. Unfortunately, the pandemic kind of cut my in-person hours short a little bit. But that was actually kind of a really big learning experience for me, just because I was literally in the middle of the pandemic hitting and transferring sports in person to sports virtually. I had a lot more virtual responsibilities and stuff like that. So it was really great. And now I have two additional things on my resume that, I got credit for, but also I got so much out of it. I mean, it's where I am now. It's what I want to do with my life, and it's what I want to do with my career. And so my internship really helped me find that.
Thank you so much, Bregan. And I think that's something that I talk to our students about a lot is, if you have had a job during this pandemic experience, and making sure you talk about that on your resume, because that's something that a lot of people haven't had. And so she now has that, and she can really talk about that when it's time to apply for jobs. And it's impressive, for sure. Showing that you're able to pivot and be successful during a time like this is a big deal. So we really talk to students about being intentional and creating their future from the day one. I talk about beginning with the end in mind. If you have an interest in marketing, then seek out marketing opportunities starting your freshman year. Volunteer for JMU athletics, volunteer for nonprofits over the summer in your hometown. There are a lot of people who want to work in the sports industry, but your resume really needs to support it. So that's why we are so passionate about providing our students with the opportunities that we do, is because we know that eventually those are going to be the opportunities that get them their dream job, their dream internship, or the job that will get them their dream job after working in the field for a couple of years. Every opportunity is a stepping stone, whether it's a virtual conference or a speaker in one of their clubs and organizations, because that's a connection that you'll be able to add to your network. So we really want students to start thinking like that in their freshman year from the very beginning. And as we have asked students to be professional, we really want our students to know, come to class as a freshman, make sure that you've got professional dress in your wardrobe, that it exists there, because you will be asked to dress professionally for presentations, for guest speakers, for conferences, even virtual conferences. You still need to look professional, because you're going to be on the camera and people, and that's how you're presenting yourself to the world. So this is something that we really make it well known for students, and it's paid off because we're really able to present that positive image, and make sure that we have people seeing our students as young professionals and not as students in a pair of ripped jeans, or students who've just gone to class and have gone to the gym and they're kind of in their workout gear. We want our students to be seen by our speakers and by our by our industry professionals as young professionals.
Hey, Jen, can I add something just super quickly?
Absolutely. Mhm.
So I just noticed that that's my picture in there.
That is you.
But I just noticed that. But one of the things that I just really wanted to kind of reiterate a little bit was I know a lot of people that go to different schools that are within somewhat of a sport recreation management field, or even just a business field in general, and they don't have anything close to the type of professional guest speakers and presentations that we do. I mean, that picture right there, that was my sport media semester project that I did. And it felt exactly like how it would feel to do a presentation in front of high level executives. Of course, the executive was my professor. But we really put in the effort, and look at how we're dressed, and we're in a conference room and we have a big PowerPoint behind us. It was something that, not even just from a sport and recreation management standpoint, just from a business standpoint, that was really, really helpful for me. And some of these professional presentations have been one of the things that I'll take away the most out of this program, because I know going into a meeting with a high level executive whenever I'm 23 years old, to a bunch of people who are 3 times the age of me, I know that I'm acting in a professional way, and I know that I have what it takes to really bring myself to kind of to the table, and know that I'm being serious and I'm being professional. I think that's just something that's been really great within the Hart School and within the business, the curriculum that we have that really promotes that. So if anybody's looking for something that's going to, at the very least, get them to a professional level, this is definitely the place to do it.
Thank you, Reagan. That was really helpful. Would you like to talk about student orgs at the Hart School as well?
Oh, my favorite. Yeah, absolutely. So these are a list of the, I guess, official Hart School organizations that we have. I am actually the president of Women in Sport and Recreation Management at the bottom. We just started that last year. It's been crazy. We literally got our papers that we were an official club, and then 2 weeks later is when the pandemic hit. So that's been crazy. But if you see here, we have all kinds of clubs that rank nationally, in terms of there's multiple subsections of everybody across different campuses. There's some that are exclusive just to the Hart School. They've been really great because they're a really cool outlet to kind of join and be part of a little subsection of the major. So if you say you're really, really interested in club management, country club management, we have Club Managers Association of America. So you really are getting in front of people that are specifically involved in what you want to do. And they have all the skills, they have the guest speakers, they have the resources to kind of get you to where you want to go. I think one of the benefits of all of our guest speakers is they are so backed by the Hart School, financially, by word of mouth. Our alumni association are always willing to help. And we have people that have been part of the clubs that, even if they weren't necessarily in the same role industry wise that they were part of the club, they were still part of it. And so if you reached out to them and said, hey, I know you don't really do this anymore, but I'm in this club too, somebody mentioned your name, that's still a connection. And they're so willing to come back and help. We have an official honor fraternity. It's Sigma Rho Mu. They just started this past year. They've been really successful. There's just a whole bunch of different subsections within the Hart School that you can join and really kind of get your foot off the ground and get your foot in the door with different subsections of the industry. So I think that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And I always give students the idea that joining these organizations is really sort of, you talked about getting your foot in the door. This is one of those things that you should absolutely do to show your interest in different aspects of the sport and recreation industry. If you have, if you're looking at being if you're looking at going into professional sports, then joining these organizations show that interest at a young age. Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association is actually a great sales and marketing association. So we've had sport and recreation students through the years join that org and get some really valuable experience from it. So there's, again, lots of crossover, lots of opportunities. And this is where our students are joining their fellow student colleagues, and they're becoming leaders. And this is where they're meeting their colleagues of the future. All right, so now we're going to talk about some of these short-term travel programs. And the Final Four is a big part of this. And so I'm going to ask Breegan and Dr. Pate to talk about the Final Four. And I see another Breegan picture right there. And just talk about this program and how you see it going in the future and what we've done with our students in the past.
Dr. Pate, you can start if you like.
Well, I'm sure that everyone will be interested to hear your experience on the trip, but I will just provide an overview. You see on the slide that we had scheduled to go and work the Final Four in Atlanta, the men's Final Four in 2020. Of course, that was canceled, and so that eliminated that off the table. But we do plan to do this again in the future. In the past, we took a group of students to work events around the men's Final Four in Minneapolis in 2019. In 2018, also took students to San Antonio to work those events. Well, we have sent students to work the women's Final Four events, and we've worked other mega events, both regionally and then across the country. But then outside of our country borders, you see we have a really strong emphasis on study abroad. And each semester prior to pandemic, each semester, or at least each academic year, we've planned a sport and recreation related study abroad of some type. And so we've gone to Ireland, we've gone to Rwanda, we've gone to even stateside, we've gone to sent students to work events around spring training and for Major League Baseball. So we've done a variety of things to try to provide students this comprehensive experience. And those end up being resume eye poppers, is what we're hearing from those graduates of our program. So I'll turn it over to Breegan. She can explain a little bit more of what it was like as an experience.
Well, based on the picture, you can tell that we didn't get enough sleep throughout the project but throughout the week. But yeah, so it was so much fun. I actually almost didn't apply for it just because I was a sophomore and I had always heard that more like upperclassmen, that was just the rumor that was going around, like, oh, if you're not a senior, you're not going. But I was a sophomore and I was chosen because it was through an application base. I'm not sure if you're going to keep doing that, Dr. Pate, but I had to apply and I was a sophomore who went. They take anybody and everybody that they think is going to be great representations at the Hart School and JMU. I was a sophomore, we had grad students, we had seniors, we had juniors. So it was really fun. It was actually great because I knew two people that were going on the trip. The rest of the people I have never met before in my entire life. And I probably walked right past them every other day, probably. So I was able to go and we did some really, really cool events. I mean, that one right there is the Final Four dribble. Dr. Pate, if you remember, that was insane. That was a very crazy mismanaged event that we ended up fixing for everybody else.
Sometimes the poorly managed situations end up being the best learning scenarios.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite things that we did. So not only did we do things that were related to the Final Four, we helped off with the tip-off tailgate, we helped with some other events, but one of the things that we were really able to do is network out there. And I think that's kind of the underlying reason why the Hart School does a lot of these short-term programs and just the study abroads and everything like that is for the networking. I mean, we met real important people within the sport and recreation industry. I mean, we met, if anybody knows who Candace Parker is, she's a WNBA player. We thought we were just saying hi to her, maybe get a couple pictures and then leave. We ended up having a full hour roundtable discussion with her. She invited us up to one of her floors that she had in the hotel, and we just sat around this big table and we talked to them. We talked to different people from the American Cancer Society, who really helped us kind of get a different perspective of you can still work in sports without working in sports, which was really, really helpful for me. And, we were just able to not only have the sport part, but the networking part, which was really, really helpful. And honestly, if I could go back again, I would. If I could apply again, I would have, if we were having a normal year. But I thought it was one of my favorite things that I've done. And after then, like I said, I was a sophomore. After that trip, I really started getting more involved in the Hart School, and I really started to branch out and start taking more responsibilities and started getting to know more people. And it really helped me branch out and meet more people. And I loved the program. So.
So I'd really like to have Dr. Pate talk for a second about, I just heard that we have a great program that's going to be coming up. Is it next year with the PGA?
Yeah, so there's been some connections, and this is a little bit of where we overlap with hospitality as well. And so we're trying to just branch out and make connections in a variety of ways to offer those variety of experiences for our students. And so in the future, we're developing a relationship where we will be able to send students to work PGA Tour events as professional golf, and it's really a cross-platform program where we'll have students from both hospitality and sport and recreation. So the details are being finalized on all that and what it may look like. But it certainly is an area that we've been exploring for a couple of years now. And finally, one of our professors from the hospitality side has been able to really establish that, thanks in part to a member of our an alumnus of our program who is very well connected with the College of Business as well as the Hart School. They sort of introduced us to that opportunity, and so that strengthened that connection for sure.
Absolutely. So that will become sort of another hallmark of our program, just like our Final Four is a yearly program for us. And I'm going to ask Dr. Pate again to talk about one of our study abroad trips.
Sure. A couple summers ago, Dr. Emeka Anaza and Professor Neil Marin, they both took a handful of students to Rwanda for a study abroad that lasted a little over a week. And they were there learning about sport culture within the country, really getting exposed to the culture. That was sort of one of the main priorities there, to put our students into that environment and sort of learn on a global scale. Many of our students are from Virginia or from the Northeast. We do have students from a variety of different locations, but when it comes to one of the things we're trying to do in the classroom is broaden their perspective into more of a global perspective, because our industry is a global industry. Even if it is just a North American sport, you're still working on a global platform. And so taking our students into Rwanda was such an enriching experience for the students and for our faculty, just to grow closer to each other, right? That's number one. Number two, learning a new culture, understanding what sport is like through that lens. We always challenge our students to be able to take off our lens that we come to the table with and put on someone else's lens, just to appreciate and respect what they're looking through. And so you can see that one of the bottom left photos is there were so many of these opportunities. From what Dr. Anaza and Professor Marin share, is that they were able to connect with a lot of the people within the area where they were staying. And so, we're hoping to do a lot more of those. We've developed a variety of different avenues of a relationship with professionals within the region where Rwanda is located. And so we're hoping to develop that even further and again, return there soon.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pate. So we wanted to talk to you a little bit about our success rate with the Hart School. 97% of our students who graduated back in 2019 were employed, continuing education, or employed full time. You can see sort of what the breakdown is. 6% were continuing their education at the master's level. About 3% were doing an internship 6 months out. 1% was still looking for a job, and 88% were employed full time. So 97% of our students are really engaged, and they are engaged within the sport and recreation industry within 6 months of graduation. And then this kind of gives you an idea of an overview of sort of where our students are working. Sport nonprofits, we have a sports agency, we have professional sports teams, collegiate sports teams. And I think we've talked about this a little bit throughout the process or throughout this presentation. Breegan and Dr. Pate, do you guys have anything to add?
Well, one of the things that I wanted to add is that, several times our students will come into the sport and recreation management major and they want to immediately be the director of Parks and Recreation, or they want to work in the front office of a professional sports team, or they want to be a Division I college athletic director. And those are terrific long-term goals. But what we try to do is show that those are goals where you have to step into across several years. So you may love, I'm looking on the list here, you may love the Washington Nationals, okay, but are you willing to take an entry-level job for the Miami Marlins? You should be, right? So you're going to work your way through these types of franchises and organizations and work your way up to the top. So that's the one thing that we would stress to students coming into our program, is that not to be too tunnel visioned and to look in a broader sense. Breegan mentioned it earlier, and how, being exposed to the American Cancer Society, they have a whole division that works in sports and sport activations. And so I don't think the traditional student in any program across the country goes in thinking that broadly, but we're really challenging our students to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of going off of that, like you said, Dr. Pate, I came in with an idea of what I thought I wanted to do, and I'm coming out of something completely different. I think that's one of the greatest things about this whole program, is that it kind of shows you sort of what all of the options are. And like you said, Dr. Pate, like with American Cancer Society, like when I'm 18 years old, I'm a high schooler, I have absolutely no idea that places like the American Cancer Society or Target or Walmart or all these other corporate companies that we think are just business minded, aren't just business minded. And in fact, they're actually some of the most infused, corporations that involve themselves in sports. And so I think that's pretty cool that there's plenty of people. I mean, we could have 15 slides of all of the different companies that all of our graduates are in. This is just one little snapshot, but I bet if you had all these different slides, there would be companies that people have never heard of before. There would be companies on the West Coast, internationally, all these other things that we haven't really been exposed to before. So one of the things about the Hart School that really helped me find my path was exposing me to all these different things.
Absolutely. And I love that you talked about about widening perspectives and making sure that our students kind of come in tunnel vision and then they leave with a wider perspective as to what their opportunities are, because there's so many. There are absolutely so many. Well, this is where we're going to ask you to ask us questions and also ask you to follow us on social media. You'll be able to see sort of a snapshot of what our students are doing during the pandemic, and then also pre-pandemic. You can kind of scroll back through and you can see all the different opportunities that our students were able to participate in. And I think that they do some pretty amazing things personally. They do a lot of takeovers on Instagram. So Instagram's a great place to go, and you can see, you can see pictures of what our students are doing, conference attendance, site visits, all kinds of interesting things. But yeah, that really concludes our presentation. We've enjoyed being here with you. And I don't see any questions in the Q&A. So we're going to hang out here for just a second and really just encourage you all to take advantage of us being here. If you have any questions about anything sport and recreation at JMU related, please don't be shy. We are here to make sure that you understand what what you'll be getting from us as a freshman or as a sophomore, junior, senior at JMU at the Hart School. So while we're waiting for questions to kind of pop in, I'm going to ask that all of the panelists go ahead and drop your email address into the chat. And that will be something that can be captured if someone wants to watch this in a replay. And that way, if you guys have questions later, then you can make sure that you can contact us. All right, well, it looks like we do have a question. That's fantastic. Isaiah wants to know, what year did the learning community start? I think this is the second year of learning community, if I'm not mistaken.
It is, and it's fairly new. And like I said, it is a new concept, or fairly new concept across the country. And it is an application process. And the whole idea is to create community and to learn together. A lot of the learning community idea is centered around other disciplines within university setting. And so, but for sport and recreation, it certainly is a unique situation we haven't seen a lot of programs across the country doing this type of activity. So we are excited about it. It is sort of on the front end of that experience. So we're eager to sort of follow along with our students as they get into their second, third, and fourth years, and sort of see what that experience was like, how to improve it, and how to make it better.
Absolutely. And I'll just say that sometimes if you're coming to a place like JMU and you're from far away, maybe you don't have a lot of students at your high school who are coming to JMU. Whenever I am a JMU grad, and I think there were 25 of us for my graduating class that were freshmen together. So it was kind of nice to be able to have that connection. If you're coming from across the country, if you're coming from a smaller high school and you're the only person who'll be attending JMU, the learning community is a great way to create a community from the very beginning, and you're taking classes together, and then you're living together as well in the same residence hall. So that's a great way to create that community, and sometimes it allows students to sort of feel a little bit more safe whenever they come to a strange new place. And so if that sounds like it's of interest to you, then you can, I believe, apply for that through Residence Life whenever you're filling out your housing paperwork. All right, well, no other questions. I'm glad Isaiah asked that question. No other questions. And so if there are no other questions, we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate it. I'm hopeful we just did such an amazing job on the presentation that there are just no more questions. Thank you all for being here. We hope to see you next year for your first year at JMU and the Hart School. Good night and go Dukes.